Well, happy Wednesday to all of you. This is Faith Chat from Faith Lutheran Church in Yuma, Arizona. The purpose of these weekly visits with all of you is to keep you apprised of what's going on in the church and to encourage you to be faithful during these difficult times. So it's good that we can be together. As I said last week in our first conversations together, that I was welcoming emails and phone calls from our church members that I could share on these Wednesday gatherings to let other people know in our church what's going on with us. So I do have a couple here this morning that I'd like to share with you. This is from the Funks, who live in Buffalo, Wyoming, but who worship with us. And when they're here during the winter time, and they're sending their greetings and appreciating the worship services that we have been sending their way. I don't know what the weather is like in Wyoming this time of the year, but I suspect that the worship services are welcome time to them during what they're facing with. It's interesting to note at the end of their message, in which they greet us all and send us good wishes, they ask, "How are the wolves?" Well, so that this show is germane to issues that are facing people's real lives, I have in front of me now an email from the Wolves. They are saying, "Dell and Beverly, thank you for the chat time and for the sermons. We're doing fine, and there are some bright times going on." Beverly says that she is planting in her garden and that 2 amaryllis have already bloomed. They're the ones planted by the fruit trees, if you know that, as well as the 2 Easter lilies that they're that are also doing well, that came from the church. They all have buds on them. This is the thing about Easter lilies, friends. You don't want to be an unopened Easter lily. We want these buds to come to fruition. So the Wolves are hard at work at that. And so to the Funks in Wyoming, that is the word from the Wolves, and they're doing well and planting beautiful flowers. So I received another email from a church member with a list of encouraging things that we can do in terms of our faith life, even though we're separated from each other. First on the list was for us to pray for those on our faith prayer list. Many of our church members that are in nursing homes or are separated from others feel very despondent and lonely during this time. Our prayers would be appropriate for them. Our prayers can reach out and to touch their lives. It also is mentioned on this list that we could send a card to people. All it will cost is the cost of a stamp, and just let them know that we're thinking of them. I'm going to be following up each week and calling on members of the church. So I may be calling you this week, as many as I can get to in a week time, just to see how you're doing and to make sure that you're doing well. So there are many things that are available to us. In a moment, we're going to hear about Zoom, this whole process by which we can talk to each other and see each other's face. Our president of our council is going to talk to us about that. And just little kind thoughts and prayers and wishes that we can send to each other. So these are the news of the things that are happening in our church and ways in which we can be communicating with each other. I also wanted to bring about, for those of us that are grandparents, this is a particularly difficult time being separate from your grandchildren. I know that it touches our lives, Linda's and mine, and I'm sure it touches yours as well. This past week, our grandson Max had his 8th birthday, and the best we could do was a phone call and me singing happy birthday to him on the phone. Probably wasn't the highlight of his day. And my granddaughter Isabella, who's at home now and was quite artistic, she is drawing pictures for me and she is sending them to me, and I feel closer to her, though she does say that her mom has been harder on her with her homework than she had when she was going to school. So I think we got some kids that might be happy to start going back to school. Anyway, let's continue to stay in prayer for our grandchildren. They are treasures in our lives, and we want to be thinking of them. So as I said, we'll continue each week now with sharing news of the church. We invite you to be part of this conversation. We'll be glad to share it every Wednesday. But this past week we had our monthly council meeting, and with us this morning is our council chair, Rob Campbell, and he's going to give you an update on the council minutes. So as I said, we want to welcome Rob Campbell to our table this morning to share information about our council meeting of this month. And I also want to say personally a great thank you to Rob. He has been the one that has put together all of the videoing that we do each week to keep us in touch with our worship life. And Rob, from all of us, and I'm sure I'm speaking for most of the people in the church, we just say a big thank you for your great work in all of this.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Good.
Very welcome, and thank you for the warm words.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. I'll touch a little bit on that later in my talk, but first it's fitting for me to send a warm welcome and greetings to all the listeners from Faith Lutheran Church Council. This has been a very different, exciting, busy, whatever you want to call it, time.
Challenging.
Challenging for the first quarter of the year for your 2020 Faith Lutheran Church Council. We've had 4 meetings so far. We met February 10th, we've met March 12th, we met April 2nd, and we just recently met April 16th. All in somewhat different settings. February 10th, we were nice and cozy in the church library. It was our first meeting as the newly elected church council, and to remind everyone who your church council members are, we have Barbara Berg, Leon Burge, myself, Jerry Cooper, Reverend Glenn Larson, Mona O'Reilly, Charles Pyle, Judy Pyle, and Al Schroeder. And I'd like to personally thank all of them for their dedication the past few months. As I said, in February, we were all cozy and nice, packed into the church library. March 12th, we were also cozy and nice in the church library. And within days of March 12th, we went from cozy and nice to no church services in the sanctuary. Church services were held out in the courtyard, and we had people who wished to come came, and they spread out as they were comfortable. That happened for a couple of weeks, and it became quite apparent that in keeping in line with directives of health officials and our governor, that needed to stop, and so we went to video taped services only, which has been in and of itself quite different, a learning experience, and I think
Absolutely.
It's going very well. April 2nd, the council meets in the chapel. We're all spread out with good distance between us. Some have face masks on. It was a very productive meeting, and yet quite different. We met April 16th, just the other day, this past Thursday in fact, and that meeting was held partly on site and partly online via Zoom. We had council members tune in the warmth and of their own home, sitting at their computer. We could see their face, we could hear their voice, but they were across town, and they tuned in to the meeting and participated in that way. I had myself, I was in the office, my own office. My conference room was set up with video feed, and there were a few members that were able to be generously spaced out in my conference room and participated there, and it's quite different. We it did not take away from our ability to get good work done on behalf of Faith Lutheran Church. To highlight a few things that have happened in the first 3 months, first of all, we entered into a covenant agreement with Reverend Larson. Reverend Larson is our pastor, and this covenant runs through the end of August, and at which time we will be addressing where we go at that point. But in the meantime, I want to personally thank Reverend Larson for his leadership and his wisdom and his ability to shepherd the flock, or whatever you want to call it, guide us in through this time with his messages of warmth and caring and comfort. So thank you, Reverend Glenn.
Yes, I'm honored to be here.
And the next item is we've entered into a shared use agreement with Christ the Redeemer Anglican Church. They are a church that will be without a home beginning May 1st. They are in the process of moving into our facility. They will have their offices in the education building, and we will share use of the sanctuary. We will share use of the fellowship hall, and we really want to welcome them, and I really sense this will turn into a long-term shared use that will be beneficial to all concerned. The outreach building, I'm calling it the outreach building. Many of you may know that as the American Beginnings facility. American Beginnings is no longer an entity, no longer in business, and consequently Faith Lutheran Church has taken over the direction of the outreach building. We are in ownership of the building, and we are in control of who utilizes the building. And right now we have 2 entities in the building, and we're working on establishing covenants with them for their continued use, because the council feels that their mission and their work is in line with the original intended purpose.
Absolutely.
For the outreach building. One entity is called Arizona Community Health Workers Association, and the other entity deals with assisting people through a legal immigration process. And again, we're happy and delighted to be able to have that building on our property and be utilized as part of the outreach of Faith Lutheran Church. This transition during the time of COVID-19 pandemic has happened quickly, and things have changed daily, at times hourly. I think back to the NCAA tournament, the March Madness. I wake up in the morning and I hear that they're going to have the tournament, but with no spectators. When I went to bed that night, I heard that there will be no tournament. So literally large changes happening literally hourly. And part of that, if you've been following these videos, we began videoing the outdoor services that we had for 2 or 3 weeks, and we videoed the last few Wednesday Lenten reflections. We videoed Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, Palm Sunday, Easter Sunday. Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday, we transitioned into the sanctuary with no congregants present, just a little, some stage crew, and thanks to them, Carol Burge has been setting up the altar and keeping it in line with how you would see it if we were actually meeting and the church was full of people. Huge thank you to Carol, and also to the readers who have come, and obviously again many thanks to Reverend Larson. Until there's another change. We will continue to do this, and we're videoing them early enough so as they are posted online for your viewing Sunday morning. It was difficult for me to do my post-processing and get the video out and try to hurry it, and it's getting out Sunday night or early Monday morning, and it just didn't seem right to have you folks enjoying the service, the message on Monday morning rather than Sunday morning. So I trust you're appreciating receiving these messages in a timely fashion. Most importantly, I'm going to end with a huge thank you to the congregation for their support during this time. It has been different. It has been a learning experience, and we're all doing well, and we hope you are doing well. Thank you.
Rob, I just wanted to underscore what you said, and thank you for your good words. You and I have gotten to work closely on a number of these challenges that we faced, and it's interesting to note that our church is experiencing here at Faith a transition, a transformation, if you will, from a previous life into a new life in the midst of this tremendous challenge that we faced as a society. It just underscores to me that God can work with us in any situation and will continue to lead us, is always out in front of us if we would just grab a hold of those promises and live by them. So I want to say a big thank you to you. I've enjoyed working with you, and I'm looking forward when we can start to have our whole congregation together and get a lot of oars in the water. We're going to be going forward in a marvelous and a wonderful way. So thanks to you, and thanks to all of you out there as you continue to support what's happening here at Faith Lutheran Church.
Thank you.